Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Neuroshambles. Once again, thank you for hopping on board the Neuroshambles train. It's hugely appreciated. It's just nice to talk to people, to be honest. Not that you're here, obviously, while I'm doing it, but it ultimately ends up in your ears, and that is strangely warming to me. So thank you very much. I have got a quick request to repeat listeners of Neuroshambles. If you've listened to the show, let's say more than 3 or 4 times, the chances are you're not appalled by what I say or how I say it or any of the topics that we talk about. Let's just say that you're part of the gang now. That's great. What would really help is if you could leave a star rating or a review on the podcast platform of your choice, because that would really help me to kind of put it in front of people who maybe don't know about it or it wouldn't normally reach. Now I know that's faff and you've got enough stuff to do in your day, but if you could just take a few seconds to do that, maybe even while you're listening to this, so you're not even wasting time, that would be hugely well received. And it's not easy on Apple Podcasts. You've got to click on the show itself and scroll right down to the bottom to do it. And on Spotify, I think you've got to click on the show and then go up. I wish they'd unify this user interface nonsense, but they don't. You got to find it. But once you get there, if you could do that, I'd be massively grateful. Anyway, all self-promotion aside, we've got another great show lined up for you where I'm going to be meeting a new guest, where we're going to be discussing a topic of the week, which I think might strike fear into the heart of some of the listeners out there who've experienced some of the things that my guest and I have experienced. We'll also be looking at the positive side of things with some neurodiversity champions, some tiny epic wins, and of course, some what the flip moments. So let's crack on with it.
Meet the guest.
So I'm delighted to be able to welcome to this episode the wonderful Dan Clark. How you doing, Dan?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm getting by. I'm getting by.
I said great. I'm actually knackered. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean,
Yeah.
but we're here, and it's lovely to see you. I should just contextualize you for the listeners, Dan. So Dan is the creator of Mind Jam, which was actually mentioned in, I believe, episode 7, which is the honesty episode with Heidi Maver. So we'll talk about Mind Jam and the wonderful things that you guys do. There's a very strong kind of emphasis on gaming and what that can bring to our neurodivergent kids. So we'll talk about that later, but that is why we kind of gone for this particular topic of the week. But before we launch into that, tell me a little bit more about your setup and the neurodivergency you've got in your household, Dan.
Yeah, so just like everyone else in your divergent family, I've got a autistic daughter who's 17, she's called Layla, and an autistic ADHD son who's possibly demand avoidant as well, called Finley,
Okay.
who's 14. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we went through exactly the same as so many families I've talked to and worked with, where, it's just that slow realization. I think Finley was about 4 or 5 when we're like, this, things are a little bit different here. We're
Okay.
not coping the same way our friends are, and that went on the very, very long journey of diagnosis.
Right, because obviously you've been through it with Layla as well, but was she
Yeah,
diagnosed at that
no,
point?
no. See, Layla came through as looking into Finn because Finn was, the ball of fun.
The boy presentation, isn't it? It's the
Yeah,
non-masking.
it
Yeah.
was wow, and then suddenly it's like, hang on a minute. Then we look into girls, and obviously it's a lot quieter with them, and so
Yes, of course.
and then yeah, went to pediatrician, and she took a good 2 hours with Finn, but with about 10 minutes of Layla, she just went, yep, yep, no
Oh wow.
doubt in my mind. It was that quick, and we're like, wow. But we call it our awakening because both myself and my wife are certainly self-diagnosed autistic as well. We
Right.
realise the
Okay.
struggles we've had, but that's come through our kids, So the difficulties have led to greater understanding. Yeah. So we're very dynamic neurodivergent family. I think we cover all bases of the spectrum and
Yeah.
the issues that can bring, which is great.
A truly neuroshambolic household. So, yeah, thank you for introducing your lot. All right, let's crack on with the topic of the week.
What's the topic of the week?
So the topic of this particular episode is going to be the subject of family games, because I think one of the trickiest parts of raising neurodivergent kids is the sort of creeping realization that the experience that you were hoping to have when you're parenting your kids is very different from the reality of that. And in my family in particular, one of those areas where it's most evident is when it comes to playing family games. Because I don't know if your family was anything like mine growing up, but board games in particular and just games with the family was hugely important. Mainly, I think, because it was the 80s and video games weren't fully taking effect then, but they were the source of some of my happiest memories of childhood. So naturally, kind of had these visions of me and my kids all, gathering around the kitchen table and getting a board game out and having some good-natured camaraderie engendered by a wholesome pastime. And then
Yeah.
I met my kids.
No,
And
yeah.
it's fair to say it's far from good-natured or wholesome. I don't know, is that something that you grew up with as a kid, that kind of love of
Yeah,
games, Dan?
it's funny you said that because exactly when you said the topic is what I thought of. Exact same as a father coming in, and how I grew up was playing games, playing card games with my granddad,
Yeah. Hmm.
chess, and then, you know, nobody ever liked. Does anybody actually like Monopoly? I'm not sure, but
No,
but yeah,
I hate it, and
yeah,
it's never really entered our household, thankfully,
yeah.
because oh my, I can only
No.
anticipate the arguments it would have.
Exactly, but Cluedo, Scrabble, all those sort of things. Like say, gaming wasn't there that you could do with your parents in those days. Really, apart from Pong, maybe. But yeah. And in my head, that was the perfect. Oh, I've got the children. Once they're old enough, yeah, we got these wonderful. It'd be like the front cover of a HB game where everybody's cheering each other on and they've done amazing. Mousetrap, we've caught it.
Yeah,
And no, yeah. If you could,
this,
it'd be hilarious. I've got in my head a real picture of family game night where, yeah, you got one person crying in the corner, you got the other one cheering and jeering at everybody, and then somebody else storming out the room and knocking the board over or something. I mean,
and
that's
you've missed the person that's grabbing someone else by the neck.
yeah, that's,
Yeah,
someone
I
needs to do
mean,
a real one. Yeah,
see, the problem is, like, my kids do love games. So
yeah,
that bit we've got, like, they do love playing games, but it's actually when we play them that the problems start.
yeah,
The anticipation's great. Like, we've got loads of games that we want to play, but firstly, agreeing what game we play is, that is just the same as any kind of decision making process in our household. That everyone's got very kind of strong views, and it's always
yeah,
ends in argument. But let's just say that we've decided on the game that we're going to play. One of the major problems in my house, and presumably yours, because you've got an age gap between Layla and Finn. So I don't know if you had the same thing, but we have a big issue with understanding the need for differentiation in games. So like the older kids can do things better than the younger kids, so you make allowances for the younger kids,
yeah,
right? That's just something you do, right?
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it's something you should do, but that is a massive problem in our house.
Because you're breaking the rules.
Well, that's
It's
it.
not.
I think that's the thing,
It's
isn't
not
it?
fair.
Yeah,
It's that black and white fairness, isn't it? That's not fair. But
because yeah, as the person that's running the game, you're bending the rules to make it more even. Because we all know it's no fun if the oldest one just smashes the younger ones at the game. It's just that's why Monopoly's so shit, because it
yeah,
just ends up with someone with all the money smashing the weaker ones.
yeah,
So it's problematic. But Jay in particular, and this is his PDA nature and his desire to be in control at all times, can't let that go. He can't allow bending of the rules for India, who is, 4 years younger than him.
mm,
So, we're playing games at 7 when he's 7 and she's 3. I mean, it's reasonable to try and make some
yeah.
accommodations, but he's like,
I don't
no,
know.
he
Must
will not
win.
accept it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have like a similar thing
Well,
with your
I
two?
think we're looking the dynamics the other way round, where it's the
Okay.
youngest is the strongest willed, has has the intense burning passion for winning, I think, whereas
Right, yeah.
Layla is it will upset her. She wants to try her best, and she's bulldozed by Finn really in the games.
Yeah.
But no, luckily, I think our dynamic probably works a little bit easier than yours. But then again, having said that, Layla's always really struggled with numbers. So any game with numbers, and Finn's just been, maths genius from, he
Okay,
couldn't talk,
yeah.
but he could do numbers. So he loves anything to do with numbers. He could smash everybody basically, and so that's generally the
Okay.
game he picks.
So does he expect you to bend the rules for him because he's younger? Does he ever try that on?
He
I'm only 14.
Yeah, it definitely has, but he
Okay.
wants it to be subtle so that he still feels like he's done it.
Yeah, that is a tricky thing, isn't it? Probably the worst kind of moment I've had as a parent came from a game where we tried on holiday. So everyone's, pretty relaxed. We're having a lovely holiday and we thought we tried crazy golf.
Oh,
And Jay was 8, Indy was 4. We all thought we'd do it as a family. We'd all do it together,
yeah,
instead of sort of like splitting off. We'd all do it together because we all wanted to do it. Great. So we book onto Crazy Golf, and Jay goes first, insists on going first. So he just kind of like goes as quickly as he can. So he has to wait. So he's waiting and waiting for us to carry on. But India's only 4, so she just doesn't really know what's going on, right? So
yeah,
she's sort of slowly kind of inching the ball towards the hole and taking 2 shots where it should be
yeah.
1 and stopping it with the club. And Jay is getting increasingly furious, and he's insisting that she takes it back and that or she like counts on, and he's keeping count like really vocally. He's like shouting 14. That was another one. 15. India's getting freaked out. Me and Tam just want to move things along. We're trying to kind of keep things light and
Yep,
sort of laugh it off and trying to explain things, but Jay is not having it. And there's a queue building up behind us as well, because
yep,
obviously we're taking ages and I'm getting stressed by the people behind me
yep,
because, I'm just super aware of being judged by other
yep.
people. So, and it feels like the number of people behind me are roughly equivalent to the 18th hole at the Ryder Cup. There's just like a grandstand of people just watching what's going on as Jay is
Yep.
kicking off. And he just lost it, and he threatened to basically hit India
Oh,
with the golf club. So we have to disarm him with the
oh
club.
no.
What? Oh God, it was mortifying. Otto is just melting down because he wasn't very sporty, so I found it really difficult to kind of manage the club as well. It
Yeah.
was just an absolute shit show.
I know, and he's thinking as a family, you're like, I do it. And my wife sometimes goes, "Why did you make that happen?" And I'm like, "But I wanted a family Saturday night. I wanted
This
the
is
game,
it.
and look, everyone's in the mood."
Yeah, I had the best intentions because, and this is probably comes down to this thing that you do as a parent of a neurodivergent kid, is you still have these ideals of what you want your family to look like,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And it's
Definitely.
just this gradual letting go of that, and you know what, we can't do that. And it wasn't gradual letting go of that in the crazy golf. We let go of that quite
That's
quickly
really.
after about the 3rd hole, and we're like, Tam went and did the course with Jay.
Yep.
He's a bit less volatile with Tam for whatever reason.
Yep.
And I took the other 2, and we'd sort of just, meandered along, let people go past us again, because I don't think Jay would have tolerated that either.
Yep.
So it was a bit easier when we'd separated. But again, you just
That's that. Yeah.
this
That
vision of what we
unit.
wanted it to be.
Yeah, and then to be going home laughing about it, comparing scores or whatever.
We
So yeah,
couldn't compare scores because they've been
yeah.
ripped up and thrown in the pond.
Yeah, yeah, the club's gone. I mean, honestly, we've same thing at Gravy Golf with Finn's hitting a cow or whatever it is, a chicken that's on the course, and he's like just getting furious because
Just for the listeners, can we clarify that?
yes,
Or that was like a ceramic
yeah,
chicken or a
ceramic one,
plastic chicken. It
yeah.
wasn't
No, it wasn't
an
real.
actual
No, we
chicken.
were at a farm. No, I'm joking. No, it was, but yeah, he's trashing the course, and you're just like, oh my god, and
Yeah.
people, and like say, everyone's looking, judging, or not judging, but you feel like they're judging, and
Oh no, they definitely are.
they
I'm sure
definitely
they are
are.
because they just think it's just bad parenting or
Yeah,
that kid's spoiled
that
because
real
that's tends to be the go-to.
naughty
Well, that's
child.
certainly
Yeah.
what I think anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
but crazy golf, yes. Avoid that or play it just with one. But every time we go past crazy golf, Finn wants to play it. If he sees crazy golf, he wants to play it,
okay.
and we all inwardly groan, and and then go,
Do you do it? Because we
we
we always sidestep that now.
yeah, we try to, but we do, because he loves it, even though he's generally, even if he's playing on his own, he's in a bad mood by the end of it. It's because he's not got it in the whole of
This
the,
is the thing, right? They
um,
don't remember, do
yeah.
they? They don't
No.
remember the last time was harrowing for all of us. Why are we doing this
Yeah,
again?
and we go through the checks. Have you eaten enough? Of course, I've eaten enough. Have you? You know, and you're just like, oh God, okay, this will be all right. I'll just do it with
Is
you.
it too hot? Yeah, because that was another problem. I think it was
Yeah,
really hot because we were on holiday, so
yeah.
I think that literally raised the temperature.
And it's not cheap either. So, you know, so if you're abandoning it halfway through as well, there's that other side, you know, being a parent going, oh my God, what a waste of money as well. Oh,
Oh
yeah.
god.
But we want to do things that we remember.
Yeah,
But it's funny you say that though, because say, you talked about the start when you're on about game nights with your parents and grandparents and things. And
yeah,
you know, I've got
yeah,
fond memories, but I know I don't struggle with losing. You know, I can lose and I'm okay about it, which kind of
yeah,
works well for,
yeah,
but
exactly.
my dad, he had to win every time. It's like it skips
Oh
generation.
really?
Yeah, and I was suddenly thinking about this. So I was enjoying these games, but can you remember the Fast Show, Competitive Dad?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, Competitive Dad.
Yeah.
We played games of cricket like that, and he'd be whacking it over to the next field. "Hey, 6, there we go." I'd be like 4 years old, you know, and it's suddenly like, oh my god, I've got my dad again.
I don't know. There is a competitive element in me, I think. I mean, I grew up in a family with three boys.
Yeah,
So there was and we were always quite into sports, so we're always quite competitive. But it was pretty good natured in general. So I'm okay with losing.
yeah,
I'm happy to make allowances for my kids. But there's also that thing in me in that like I need them to learn to lose
well,
as
yeah,
well. It's an incredibly valuable lesson to learn in life is
yeah,
that you're not going to win everything and that's okay.
yeah.
But how the fuck do you teach a neurodivergent kid that without it being a very difficult lesson?
Yeah, this is actually yeah, because it's something we do in Mind Jam. Ah, little plug there, but no, it's yeah.
Okay. Oh,
But
good.
of course, we know we look into that, but it is, you know, it's recognizing that it's so much harder for them than just losing. You know, it is like they have
Yes.
failed themselves. They are super mad. It's a lot about themselves, really. So it can't be as
So why is
generalized.
it? I'm interested. Have you got an insight into why it? I agree. I completely agree. It's harder, definitely. But
Well,
I'm just
to them,
trying to understand.
it's yeah, we generalize it. It's just a game. It's just a game. Stop getting so mad about it. It's just a game. But for them, I don't quite know why. It's that competitive nature in some autistic neurodivergent people, but they if they're playing a game, they're going to play it to win. It's a game. I want to be the
Yes.
winner. I feel
Yes.
great for winning, and so it is everything to them to win. And you know, it's as much as they've lost the FA Cup final or something, and you're just playing, you know, a game of cahoots or
I
something.
guess it's the loss of control
Yeah,
potentially.
basic
Again,
and
it's
it
that. It's
creates
that. It's
yeah,
certainly.
that's what I was
You know.
gonna say, it's overstimulation and sensory overload. Maybe it's close at the end and they're hoping they're gonna win, they get the pitch they're gonna win and something pips them. For us, it's like, "Oh, no," but for them, it you suddenly notice
Yeah,
actually,
but
"Oh,
that's the
no,
excitement of yeah.
they're really mad." But that's why they wanna do it again because they want to win. And it's definitely nothing to back away from, but it is patience and understanding and compassion with it, as well as being like, when you can step away from it, not at the moment, being like, "Let's just talk," you know, that kinda spoilt the night, didn't it? You know, when that happens,
Do
you
you
know
have those kind of debriefs
yeah,
afterwards?
it's
Okay, that's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the best way to do it, rather than in the moment, you can't, obviously, in the meltdown,
No,
you can't,
obviously,
it's just to
yes.
break it up, and then it's like, you know, just chatting about it, and like I say, I do it in with my family, but we do it in Mind Jam as well, it's just say perfect example, I had one kid who was amazing at this game called Super Smash Bros. Basically, you fight each other all the time with Pac-Man or Mario or whatever it is, it's great fun. He'd win every week, win every time. You know, he was absolutely brilliant. And just one time, I thought, okay, you know, I've tried a lot. I'm going to win this one. Won it. That was the end of the session. The computer went down, turned off. See you later. I was like, oh
Oh,
god, and
right,
I was like,
okay.
oh no, I pushed it a bit too far here. You know, I've obviously stepped up, said message the parent. They were completely understanding. Don't worry. You know, it's like this all the time. But I think what really helped was the next session. At the start, I didn't mention it. You know, it was just like, "Hey, all right, mate, how you
Yeah,
doing?" And it
mhm.
was back to just playing the game again. And it was only once we kind of had got back in that they realised there wasn't a massive consequence for their actions. You know, that I wasn't abandoning
Okay,
them
yeah.
or something. That then we could be like, "Oh, it's a shame you left when everyone," you know, and we just talked about, you know, that I was trying really hard as well, and you know, I thought you'd be quite happy that I'd finally managed to beat you after 100 times, and it kind of, and then the relationship kind of changed a little bit, but it's you know, it's not always easy, obviously, because once the anxiety kicks in and the hot-headedness, I think it's, they're
Yes.
gonna
Yeah.
see red and they just want to win. But yeah, there's that is a thing, and it's just that the same with, board games, it's that lack of control, the unluckiness, the unlucky dice roll.
Yes, because
Um,
chance is a
yeah,
part of all good games, right?
yeah,
Yes, to kind of balance it out a little
but
bit,
that
and that is a lack of control. And if you've got a PDA kid,
yeah,
the
exactly.
lack of control is a major trigger for them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So there's that.
Yeah,
It's like in any other part of life, you'd be like, "Yeah, well, that's I can see why that's making you upset." But then in a family game, you're like, "Well, it's just a game." But it's like, no, they're
yeah,
like they feel like the dice is picking on them. Why is the dice always giving me a
yeah. The
one?
world is conspiring against me, and
Exactly.
I've had that. Yeah, I've had
Yeah.
that before. Sometimes my own instincts kick in as well. Like you were saying that you were like in
Mm.
that when you were playing Super Smash Bros. You were like, I'm gonna defeat him.
Yeah.
But sometimes I can't help it. So I like I'm, and I do. I sort of regret it to this day. But I was playing Mario Kart with Jay,
Yeah.
and he's really good at it. And he won every race in the four race sort of tournament. He
Yeah.
won every race until the last one. I was like, I'm gonna give it a go, and I won the last one, and I was really happy. And just as I was coming up to the finish line, he was going, "You have to stop! You have to stop the car and let me win. I've never won all four, and I get an achievement. You have to stop!" And I was
Oh.
just like, "No fucking way! I'm not going to do that." And then I crossed the line. I was like, "Oh, I literally have crossed the line, haven't I?"
Oh
Because
no.
because he absolutely lost it. He was so furious.
Yeah.
We did actually have a conversation afterwards where I was like, look, I want to win just as much as you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, he didn't really see my point, but at least I kind of got to express that a little bit. And
Yeah, I
um,
think that's the important thing because neurodivergent young children are so empathetic. Everyone says there's no empathy there. There's loads of empathy there, but
mm,
when they get into self-preservation and the anxiety hits,
yes, then it's out the
they can't
window.
be gracious winners or losers. And
Yes, yes.
yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? It's so tricky. And like I say, I can completely see both sides of that because if that's true that he wanted to get that trophy as well, so it was even bigger than just beating you. That was
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
completing the 4 tracks. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he hadn't told me that.
No.
But also, like beating me is nothing now. I'm just nothing to him. so,
Yeah.
so that's not the achievement. So there's also been beaten by someone who's obviously not as good at the game as well. So there was a double whammy.
Does he roast you as well about it?
I mean, in everyday life, he roasts me like constantly. Still not sure how much he means it and how much is just like, this is a funny thing to say. It's unclear. He doesn't smile when he does it.
Yeah. But
But yeah, no, he does. He does a lot,
yeah,
and it's quite funny. I
yeah.
mean, he is like some of the stuff he says when he plays games is genuinely hilarious. There was and again, this kind of back to the differentiation thing, the inability to differentiate. I remember playing tennis with like a group of kids once, and it was just like six kids all with tennis rackets just trying to get it over the net, and wasn't no one was scoring. It was just a fun game, and he was part of that. And we gave it to this girl who was 4, I think, or 5, and she kept dropping the ball on the floor and trying to hit it over the net, and she she kept missing every time, and it was quite funny and it was quite cute, and she kept doing it, and eventually Jay just kind of piped up and he went, I hope someone remembered to bring mince pies because at this rate we're going to be here till Christmas.
Brilliant.
It's just like he's so sharp when he
Yeah.
wants to be.
Oh,
And yeah,
amazing.
so he's good at roasting.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Certainly.
what I found with my son. Now
um
he's got better than me at, like, FIFA. Instead of it just being this bit of anxiety while we're playing, and I realise he's not actually having fun. He's just sweating and getting angry.
yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah, yeah.
it's him beating me most of the time, but also telling me how rubbish I am. It's like being, like I say, being a gracious winner as well is another thing that needs to be learned.
Another thing that I find is sometimes buying into the spirit of the game is an issue, and it is Jay again that just tries too hard to be like really clever so that like no one can get it. We've got this game that we play because Otto absolutely loves games. It's really important to him, and we'll kind of talk about that later. But for Jay, he has to win, but at all costs. So we have this game that we play on the walk into school, and Otto really needs this as a bit of a kind of social crutch, right? Where it's the animal game. It's very simple. One person thinks of an animal, and you just ask a bunch of questions, yes or no answers, and you have to get it right.
Yeah.
And I play that with Otto in India without any problems. It's so good natured. It's an absolute treat. And then Jay goes, "All right, I've got one now." It's like, oh God. Oh God. What's he got? Because I know he's going to choose something that no one's ever fucking heard of because he's really into animals, right? He knows a lot about
And
really obscure animals. And I know the one he's chosen is one
yeah.
that we've never heard of. So Otto's getting more and more anxious because he's trying really hard and he's not getting it, and we're
No,
getting
no.
closer to school. So the time thing is like we're nearly at school and it has to end by then. So he's getting wound up. Jay is calling everyone idiots because we don't know it yet. You know, India just wants out of it. She wants nothing to do with it now, and I'm just like trying to get it because I want to end it just to restore some kind of harmony.
Oh.
And then we'll ask him what it is. Oh, we give up. What is it? And it's like so specific. It's like it's a Vietnamese yellow-bellied sea snake or something. It's like,
And
fuck.
he'd be
I
like, "But
said snake.
I
I
said
said
sea
snake.
snake, but no, you did say
Yeah.
Vietnamese."
No, yeah. Which type of yellow-bellied sea snake? Ah, you dick.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, the car games. Oh, fun until they're not fun.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
It's yeah, so yeah, like you say, those
yeah,
times when you launch into a game and you realise immediately that you shouldn't have done that.
yeah, yeah. But it's it's sad in a way because we did get to a stage where nobody wanted to game with Finn. I would game with him, but nobody would game. Like Layla certainly wouldn't,
Yeah.
and it really
Hmm.
causes a bit of a divide in the sort of family time. So it's hard and it's a lot. It's
Yeah, well,
input.
we certainly have that with Jay. I mean, this is the like I'm sure. I think in any family, in any neurotypical family or any neurodivergent family, there is at least one game that no one's going to play again. You played it once, it's like, yeah, we're never ever going to
Yeah,
play that again.
yeah.
We've got one certainly. It's just like, no, we played it once, and it was the fucking mother of all meltdowns. That game was Beat the Parents. I don't know if you
Oh
know that
no, I've not
game.
tried that one. No.
Oh God, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Beat the Parents is where you get the parents and you get the kids, and the kids are on a team. So it's like, great, it's collaborative,
Yep,
right? Me and Tam don't care if we lose,
yep.
so that's
Perfect,
okay. But
perfect.
before you start, you have to agree on a wager, right? To say, right, if the parents win, the kids have to do the washing up like twice this week.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the kids normally go, right, we get like unlimited screen time. We go, no, you can't have that. Be realistic. But they
McDonald's
will,
every day.
yeah, whatever it is, we kind of barter and we get an agreement on that. But then what you're doing is you're literally raising the stakes for winning
Yeah,
becomes so much more important because they've chosen something that is really high value to them.
yep.
So
And
all of
they
a sudden, it makes it so much more important to win,
yeah, and they don't wanna
and it,
lose and get
it
their losing
no,
prize,
and it
yeah.
increases the anxiety. And then it's like there are quiz questions. So, if they don't know, if you don't know a quiz question, you can't really guess it, certainly at that age, because they're all fact based, right? So there were some questions and they couldn't get them, and Jay was just going absolutely nuts. Going, they're cheating. This is not right. And it's like, come on, that's kind of easy, uh, which doesn't help, right? And then we get really fucking hard questions. It's like,
Yeah.
who was the Czechoslovakian representative at the signing of the Maastricht Treaty? I don't know,
All know that.
And then like Jay's going, how do you not know that? It's like, oh
Yep.
God, the amount of arguments that game caused, and
Oh,
it basically led to the board being flipped over and a huge screaming meltdown. Jay shouting at his siblings for being idiots, shouting
yep,
at us for cheating.
yep.
So we will never play that game again. And we once had a one-on-one day that me and Jay had where I was like, "What do you want to do? You can do anything today, just me and you. What do you want to do?" It was like, "I want to play Beat the Parents." I was like, I was like, you know what? It's just me and you. I could just lose it.
Yeah.
All right. I was like, I'll do it. This once because there's no one else around. I can take it. And we fell out before we even agreed the wages.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like, no,
Just
that
feel
is
it.
gone
It's
now. That is done.
burning already. Yeah, I think I was just something called Cranium. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, where it's kind of like
Oh, I
quiz.
like Cranium.
Well, I
Cranium's a
do.
good
I thought
game.
this is gonna be great. I remember it from when I was younger playing it with mates and stuff, but again, no, that competitive nature and, um just everything. I think the clay, because you got a bit of clay. I think that was launched across the
Yeah.
room. I think the cards went everywhere. It was just like, yeah, yeah. And then again, it's like that cold
It's good to be able to
realization.
laugh at it though,
Yeah,
because
exactly, exactly,
there
exactly.
are some of some of my darkest moments are after that, when it's just like, oh, I just wanted a bit of fun
Yeah,
for the family, for us to do a thing together. It's really important to me,
yeah,
and just realizing that I can't really do that. There, I mean, our house is littered with games that have been used once and we can't use again. Like, we should just have like a massive jumble sale of games that are nearly new,
yeah,
and like the pieces have likely got like a dent where they've hit the wall at speed.
yeah.
But apart from that, the game's in pretty good nick. Yeah, I think everyone's got that somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the only game we've managed to play that hasn't really ended up was Scrabble, surprisingly.
Okay.
I don't
Wow.
know why. We just must have picked a good day for it. We haven't played it a lot, you know. But I'm just thinking about the others. They've just like you. We normally get them at Christmas. Oh, this is a good new game to play, and then we play it once, and then never again. Gone in the cupboard of shame, collecting dust.
There's a one game that we have as well, similar, that for whatever reason works for all of my kids,
Mm.
and it's called Dungeon Mayhem.
Oh, sounds fun
uh,
already.
and it is wicked. It's a card game, right? It's really, and you basically you accumulate powers that you can then use on other people. But like the dynamics of the game shouldn't work with my kids, because you basically go, right, I've got this card which deals 3 damage to someone. I'm now going to choose who to do 3 damage to. Like, that in my head is like, this is not going to work, because
Yeah.
there's going to be accusations of victimization. But as soon as they all realised that they could conspire to gang up on me,
Yeah.
it was fine. It was totally fine. So every time I play that game, I know that everyone's weapons are
We're
going to
gonna.
go against me first. So they're not the first out.
Yeah.
And it's quite a fun game. It's really nicely illustrated, and the characters are quite fun and quite silly as well. And it's got a bit of a Dungeons and Dragons vibe, which
Yeah.
we'll go into later, but is quite appealing to my kids. So that, for whatever reason, works, and I think it's because they're not going to be the first out, and they get to kind of conspire against me, and that feels okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I got, have you heard of Throw Burrito? Um,
Oh yes, that's
yes.
one that I don't think we can
Yeah,
play.
don't. I was gonna say, uh, it's that again has worked okay in our house just because they pick on me. They throw them at me.
Just explain it for the people who don't know.
It's basically a card game, but then when you get to a certain point, you pick up these burritos, and throw them at each other. And then if you get hit by the burrito, you lose some points or lose some cards. I can't remember now, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. But play it in a room where there's no things get broken, because of course, yeah, it went to another level with my son, and where the point where it was thrown at high speed. But again, yeah, like I say, Layla and Finn could play it together because they'd target me. So if we were targeting
Yes.
Finn, it would have really struggled. But generally, I wouldn't recommend that one. I don't think it would work in a neurodivergent household that well. But
No, I know.
it's
I've had that. Like,
funny.
people have bought us games before. I think that may well have been one.
Yeah,
Um, that someone bought us, and I just looked and went, "This is no, this will not do." I'm like, I appreciate the thought, but it's just not going to fly in my household. A lot of the time, for my kids in particular, the prospect of losing itself is the thing that's triggering.
yeah,
But what I've noticed is that when they're triggered, I have this strange combination of children that all react in different ways to being triggered by losing, right? So you've got the fight,
yeah,
which is 100% Jay. If he's losing, his fight instinct is triggered, and he will fly off the handle, and he will accuse people of cheating, or he'll keep trying to cheat himself. Or sometimes he'll do it in quite a funny way, like if he's about to, like, chess is a good example. He really likes chess, but when you're playing it and he realizes that it's about to be checkmate, he'll start fucking around and
yeah,
pretending the king can do crazy kung fu shit, and
yeah,
and that's quite funny. And then you just go, nah, this is nonsense, and then he'll kind of like just walk off. But
yeah,
so he, in his head, he's not lost, but
yeah.
we know.
We know. Yeah,
um but that's kind of his instinct. Now Otto is completely the opposite. He is super anxious, and it very often ends in tears
yeah,
with him, because he gets very stressed. So it's much more important to try and help him to learn to lose, just as it's important to teach Jay to win.
Yep.
Um, but Otto used to get so stressed about losing. Once at school, he had a nosebleed because they suggested playing bingo.
Mm. Yes.
Right?
God,
And
yeah.
like he instantly went, fuck no,
Yeah.
panicked, and then his nose just started bleeding. And they were like, I couldn't understand it. It's like, well, no, I totally get it, because he's been triggered by the prospect of losing. It's not the prospect of playing, it's the prospect of failing at something that he wants to do well at. And it's triggered him so much, and he's panicked so much that
It's
he's
it's
had a
similar it
nosebleed.
is similar emotions just coming out in a different way, isn't it? It's my daughter's like that with sports day and horrendous things like that, and yeah,
Oh
she would
yeah.
be like really ill, and I think it's about humiliation, feeling even though no one is judging her
No,
like
of
that,
course. It's the
but it's
perception of that, isn't it?
yeah, so I think again it's that weight of the winning and losing is huge,
Yeah.
isn't it? And from my experience, it does get easy. Not everybody. I mean, we all know adults who are also terrible losers, and terrible winners, but generally people mature. And what I was reading is it's that they say about the spiky profile. So
Yes.
yeah, they may be way advanced in certain ways, but in other ways they are
Yeah.
way younger than their years, and
Mhm.
so the thought of being put into a big stressful situation where they're going to lose or going to win is actually really causing issues, especially when, a young person gets to school age and especially secondary school age, they're supposed to be able to deal with all that. And yet, they
Yeah, of
could be
course.
quite immature in those ways, and just not matured in that. So it just might take time. And
Yeah,
again, it's that
you're right.
understanding, isn't it? And that compassion in
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. And to be fair, we found quite a good way around it when Otto was really he didn't want to play any games because he was anxious. So he would always go, "I'll be the judge."
Yeah,
Right.
brilliant.
So we'd have a family game and he'd be like, "Great." So like it was bingo. We used to play a thing called Ocean Bingo, which is a wicked game actually for like that age of kids, where you just sort of draw pictures of ocean animals and you've got a bingo card and you match them, right? And he used to like not want to be one of the players, but he was the bingo caller, which is great because he could read quite early as well, so that was a source of pride to him because it had the name of the thing on his card, so he would draw it out and call it, and then he wasn't going to lose, but he was still very much a part of the game. Not obviously not every game needs a judge
Yeah,
because it's evident what's going on, so we'd sort of lean towards ones where he'd have an involvement, but over time he has got better about that. Certainly one on one, it's easier for him, I think.
yeah,
So I will play card games with him, and he will like that. He will like to play, Exploding Kittens is a really
yeah,
good one.
yeah. Great game.
Or Unstable Unicorns is a similar one
Yeah,
again, which is just absolute carnage. But he really enjoys that. But as soon as another person goes, "Oh, that looks fun. Can I join in?" He's like, "I'm gonna watch.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to join in." It's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
come on. We
big.
nearly had a family game. Nearly."
That's really cool, though, in a way, for Otto to recognise that situation puts him in a bad feeling. But so he's actually stepping out and,
Yes.
and protecting himself in a way, of going. But I'm still going to be involved. It's not
Yes.
which we've all had as well. I'm sure is walking away and not doing it. I'm not going to play. No, I don't want to. And you're just like, oh, we're not
Yeah.
quite
And
all here, are we? Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, I mean, with India, sometimes she just needs to see it before she gets involved.
Yep.
Because so teaching her a new game is she'll not do that. But when she watches it a couple of times and understands what's going on, and it's partly because she's younger as well, I think, but also we suspect neurodivergence there as well. I think it's important for her to know what it looks like
Yeah.
before she does it, and once she does, then she loves it. It's like Unstable Unicorns, which is actually quite a complex game if you're kind of if you're strategizing and stuff.
Yeah.
She's really good at that. Like she's brutally good at Unstable Unicorns. So
Amazing.
so she's definitely good at games, but she needs to kind of suss it out first. Otherwise, the natural response, if it's all kicking off, is the freeze response,
Yep.
and that in itself causes a problem because she'll just opt out of a game mid-game
Yep.
if she's just like, I don't want to do this. Not really because she's losing, just because that don't
It's,
like it. Whatever's going on, I'm not.
yeah.
But then you've got this spare piece or this spare go on the board, and that causes its own issues because then it's a negotiation about, Jay going, "Oh, I'll take those pieces." Like, oh no, it's just Like,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. It's it's a juggle of everything. You just remind me of something as well. A new game. How stressful is that? Because you need to know all the rules, but everybody wants to play it straight away sometimes,
Yeah,
and then you
yeah,
like, but then they blame me because I don't know the rules. But I've not had a chance to read. I don't know. I've never played
I
this game
know.
before.
It's the impulsivity as well of ADHD that's like, let's do it now. Look, the pieces look really cool. Let's go. I'm going to be
Yeah.
this guy. It's like, whoa,
What do
whoa,
we do?
whoa. Let's
What do
just
we
hold
do?
on a
I
second.
remember I bought Finn loves geography, so we bought Risk. I'd never played Risk in my life.
Oh my
Um,
God. That sounds like a recipe for disaster in
Yeah,
my house. I don't know how that.
the first game we played with my daughter as well, and that was horrible. We tried to read the rules, follow it, and it was just she walked off,
It's.
and he was kicked off, and But then we made our own rules and basically made his own sort of game around it. I
Nice.
have no idea how
Nice.
you really play Risk anymore. We just play it our way, where something happens with the characters, we take over countries, or he takes over mine, more like. And yeah, it's actually been a good game, but just for the two of us, not for a
I
family.
like that idea of making up your own rules and just
Yeah,
sort of inventing your own game
yeah,
as you go along. That's pretty good. But again, that there's an element of collaboration that's required in that
exactly.
is not always forthcoming in my house. To sort of combat this issue of buying games once and then not using them, there is actually a place in Brighton called the Dice Saloon, which is amazing because it's a cafe,
Yeah.
and they've got like a wall of hundreds and hundreds of board games, and you
Cool.
go sit in a booth and you get a coffee and you go and choose one of the board games and you bring it down and you get it out and you learn. And what you've got there is, firstly, if the game doesn't quite suit you, it's fine, just go and get another
Yeah,
one. So that's quite nice, because sometimes you start playing, you're like, this not
y
it's not great, is it? Let's do a different one. But also, there's so many different types of games,
yeah,
and it's just this wonderful space where we can actually go as a family, and just try out lots of different games. And very often we'll return to one or two kind of tried and trusted ones. Now, I will be clear, we don't all play the same games together.
yeah.
As I've
So you
clarified,
can try a
we have
few,
to
good, yeah,
separate. So usually it's me and Jay that do some of the more complex games, and
yeah.
then Tam will do some of the sort of more fun, easier games with the other two.
That sounds brilliant, though.
But like you say, learning the rules for some of these games, when it's like,
Oh,
this looks like a really cool game. The cooler the game looks, typically, the longer the rules.
yeah, yeah. Like, just give
It's
me
like, oh God,
just
I've
give
got
me
to do it.
Bop It. I can do Bop It, it's fine. It's like that. I know what's going on there. Snap. There we go. No, Snap. I don't know. Did you even have trouble with Snap? I had honestly.
Oh yeah, yeah, because it's a reaction thing. So Otto could never do that because
Yeah.
his reactions are a little bit more delayed. Certainly when he was younger. So that wasn't, and also then there's a noise, right?
Yep.
And you bang the table. So there was that kind of
Yep.
that was quite triggering for him as well. So that wasn't really literally not on the cards, pun
Hey.
intended. Uh,
Yeah. No.
card games in general are quite good. We've got a really good family one we called Chase the Ace. We play with the
Yep.
whole
Yeah,
family.
we've got that one. Yeah. Yeah, and it's in the pack, isn't it? It's something.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
one ace, and you have to
Yeah.
not get it basically, and you pass it
Yeah.
on. And
Yeah.
it's a really good game. And my kids just really got into it recently, and it's like it's always been my grandparents taught it me, and it's always been a family tradition. And that's really sometimes, when certainly at Christmas, when things are starting to go to shit, like people are starting to get fractious, and it's all been a bit much, and it's all overwhelming, and one of them wants to leave. We bust out JCAs. It buys us another half hour, I reckon,
Nice.
and everyone gets in on it. And what's quite nice is that we've worked out that if one of the kids is out, they get to choose the adult to jinx.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Right?
Nice.
They're like, I'm out, so I'm going to go with Daddy because I want him to lose. And it's like, no, get away from me. And then that becomes the game in itself, and it's a bit more, it's
Well,
about finding these little these side
yeah.
games, isn't it? These little kind of
And
variations on the game itself to keep it entertaining for them. I've found certainly in my house, this is where video games have been so important, particularly for Jay, because it's that element of games that he likes. He's playing a game, but it's against the computer. It's not against another person.
mm,
And the rules are kind of built into the game. There's no interpretation. It's just, you know what the rules are. No one's reading the rule book and going, actually, you got to take that move back because you're
yeah.
not supposed to do that until your second turn. You know those,
It
those little petty arguments you get.
yeah.
That's all sidestepped. It's all baked into the game. Wicked. And he really got into to gaming there, and it was great because we didn't have to police it or enforce rules.
Yeah.
And are you saying that Finn has that sort of
Oh,
similar love of gaming?
definitely, yeah. I mean, all of us as a family, that's what led me kind of to Mind Jam, to setting it up
Hmm.
was when I suddenly realised that the gaming was pulled us together. A shared love of doing the same activity together, and we weren't necessarily against each other as well. But it was just sort of like, oh my god, we're all sat here having a laugh, and we've done this for like two
So what
hours.
was the game? What was the game
It
that did
it
that
was,
for you?
Mario 3D World was the first one. We all
Okay.
played together. It's 4 player, and it's collaborative. That was the first one that suddenly realized, "Oh, we're all playing together," and if somebody's, off the screen, it just turns you into a bubble, and you float back on, and you're back in the game again, and, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
still mo
Nintendo are great at that kind of thing, aren't
yeah,
they? They're great at leveling up games.
exactly, and there's still times when we weren't, but that was just like, "Oh my god," and we're all still sat here, and we're having a great time, and it didn't end up in tantrums.
It's really important, isn't it, to kind of have that sense of connection because it's something that it's not always easy to find in a neuroshambolic household because there's
Yeah,
so many emotions going on and so many agendas going on and so
exactly.
kind of diminished capacity for kind of making allowances for others sometimes when they're overwhelmed. And so having something that everyone can collaborate on is
Yeah.
wonderful, and that's the kind of golden thing. And that really helped my relationship with Jay, certainly. And you saying it kind of helped you set up Mind Jam. So this is where you could tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about Mind Jam, because I know what it is, and you certainly know what it is, but some of the listeners might not be familiar with it. So just explain a little bit about Mind Jam.
Yeah, so Mind Jam is, I set it up in the pandemic. I've been teacher, working with young people, and started to look into gaming and running gaming clubs after school because I've seen how it brought together my family and
Hmm.
through my life, obviously, and knowing other gamers and things as well. So when in the pandemic, had a few parents who had used to teach contact me saying that their young person's really struggling and they're on their own, they're lonely, isolated,
Of
and
course, yeah.
they've got first one was had a problem with a game called Star Wars Battlefront, and wondered if, because we talked about gaming in school, whether I could
Yeah.
help him with that. And we started these sessions. I was like, oh my god, this is so coming into his safe space. His mum was like, he's not talked to anybody apart from me for like 2 years, and suddenly he's talking with you, and
Wow.
and straight away, and it was like, this is something. And I remember getting on the treadmill that night, and always my best ideas come on the treadmill. Don't worry, I'm not super fit, but I do like to get on the treadmill. And basically told my wife it, and she was like, "That sounds amazing. Go for it." And Mind Jam was born. Basically, it's emotional support, but for young people, especially neurodivergent young people, but using gaming as the platform to connect.
Hmm.
So using that as, so it's not so direct of someone coming in going, "How are you feeling today?" And it's like,
Yes.
let's get on Minecraft. Let's find some diamonds. Oh, so how's your week been? It's so much more natural. Um, and yeah, it's grown from there. It's about creating that trust and that bond. And we're there for as long as that young person needs us. So it's not just the 6 weeks. You'll be fine. See you later now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But it's also child led and low demand. So it can be just about, feel like it's just about gaming at first, but over that regular weekly session in Roblox or whatever we're playing, there's that relationship is formed and that trust.
Yeah, so they build up that trust, I
Yeah,
guess. I mean, and I suppose there's a thing where their mind is occupied by something else.
yeah,
So they're almost, sometimes if you're watching football with a mate
yeah,
and you're watching the football but you're having a chat, and you can actually chat about some quite deep stuff, but
exactly.
your mind is on something else.
Rather than staring at
Yeah,
each other talking about it, and it
yes,
was,
and you're
you know.
removing that confrontation from it almost.
Yeah, but also the other side of it is there's such passion and love, especially again, speaking of neurodivergence, they have a real affinity with gaming. It's proven they're better at games a lot of the time, and they love the escapism or the logic of it, or
Hmm.
there's a lot to love about gaming, and there's a lot of
The
benefits.
puzzling element of it,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
loads of benefits to it, but so to come in and actually be like, being a trusted adult and be like, "I love gaming too," and recognize where they're good at, and really build up that self-esteem is huge. Right, there's so many things in the media like, "Get off gaming, you're wasting your time." It's, "Do something proper." It's like, gaming is proper. There's so many skills in
Yeah,
there.
that is wonderful.
You know,
Yeah, because I mean, Jay doesn't have high regard for many people, but the people that he does have high regard for, it's entirely because they're good at a specific bit of a specific game.
yeah,
Like got a mate of mine called Phil. He's wicked, and he's really good at Zelda.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and so basically, Jay would kind of save the tricky bits for Phil, and he'd go, "When's Phil coming over?" I was like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of getting him over." He's like, "Can you get him over like tonight?" I was like, "Any particular reason?" I
So
just like he's much better at Zelda than you. I
yeah.
was like, "I could have done it. I could do it. It might take me a while," but
You
but he's like, "No,
you
you're rubbish.
failed.
Bring on Phil."
Yeah. Be
So he has
replaced.
higher regard for my mate Phil than he does for me.
Well, I mean, it's
But
great,
you know,
but again, that's him recognizing that skill in someone else as well. So rather than being
yes,
like, "Oh, he's way better than me. I'll never be that good," beating themselves up about it. It's not. It's like it's learning collaboration and teamwork. I'd say there's so much benefit there. Obviously, we all know the issues, online gaming and all sorts of things. But I think it's
yeah,
nice sometimes to shout about the positives that it can bring.
no,
Because
definitely.
otherwise everyone thinks it's this evil thing. I remember. Did you hear the other month about the child that beat Tetris? He was 13.
No,
He beat the game.
is that possible?
Yeah,
Well, if it is,
it just ends. Well, it glitches, I think, and then it goes wrong. He managed to beat it, and the newsreader just said, "Oh, you should get out more." That was what it said. Rather than going, if it was a
it's like
chess genius or someone had read 100 books, you know.
that kid must have been neurodivergent, right?
Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's it. They're
hundred
just.
percent.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah,
We talk about gaming and getting into the gaming world.
that's so withering, though, isn't it? That's so dismissive to say you should get
No,
out more. It's like, dude, do you know how many people would kill to
yeah.
be that guy, that kid? I'm talking about that kid now.
Yeah,
Never met him.
it's a world
He's a
record.
legend.
It's oh yeah, it's just it suddenly showed how backwards and old fashioned some views are. It's like
Yes.
reading fiction was seen as warping young girls' minds 100 years ago. It was like
Yeah, I know. I
and
know.
so things have just moved. And so, I know if you're not a gamer, it can be quite worrying. You can be quite, but
Well, that is the thing, when Jay is because it's a special interest of his, so he will just talk incessantly about that
yeah,
all the time, the specific game like that he's on, and it is exhausting. And the other two are just like, oh, can we just talk about something else? But I'm also like, it's so important to my relationship with Jay
yeah,
because we don't talk about much other stuff because he's not interested in other stuff. He'll never ask me a question about myself.
no, no,
So connecting with him on that game, I found it's really important, and not only just where we kind of swap anecdotes about whatever game it is, but I put him in a position as expert because I say,
yes,
I'm really struggling with this bit. And he just lights up. He loves it. He loves
exactly,
teaching me how to do stuff.
yeah,
I mean, recently he's actually preferred to mentor me doing a game than he has just wanted to be in his room playing the game itself.
yeah.
Like he looks forward to that now, which is a big change for him, and it's really nice. But it is quite crushing for me because he's not the most tolerant of teachers.
Yeah. You like
He's
that,
just like,
yeah.
you're terrible at this. You're awful at this. And then back to this differentiation thing. He doesn't realize that because I can see how many hours he spent on the game
Yeah,
versus how many hours I've spent on the
yeah,
game. And he's
like
like 6 times the amount of hours that I've got, but he's just like, I can't believe you don't know that. Oh, you're so
yeah.
rubbish. Oh, just let me have a go. You're really infuriating. But it's connection and
Yeah,
it's important. And
it is great,
it's been really good for our
and
relationship.
like I say, letting them talk about he's showing that interest in it, so, like I say, you might not, know even like to play Fortnite, but if they love Fortnite, just looking into, "Oh, what's the new season about then?" And just suddenly he's
Yeah.
just gives you that thing, that connection, and then that understanding of when they're getting upset, or not coming down for dinner, or or what has happened. They might be in a really super important match. They might, if they leave that
Yeah.
match
Yeah.
early, it might be detrimental to their points. They might get banned for a few days. That can happen if you quit an online match, and there's all sorts that come through that understanding, I think. But yeah, gaming, like I say, is obviously been amazing for me as a family, but also for starting Mind Jam, and we do that a lot as well. It's that empowerment of, they're so used to and been traumatized by the hierarchy of school system or even the health system.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about Mind Jump. I mean, full disclosure, we've got a place. We've got a mentor who we met for the first time last week. He hasn't had his first session yet, but I'm very excited about it.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
So yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to be really positive. I'm sure it will be
It's one of them
for him.
things, yeah, it's obviously the anxiety will kick in, but that's where the game comes in to help with that, and it's just like, we just keep it about the game. "Okay. Oh, so you play this. Oh, this is a great game, isn't it?" You just make it about the game that suddenly, hopefully,
Yeah.
they'll be like, get over that anxiety of meeting somebody new and be like, "Oh, I can't wait till next week now. We know we need to be doing this, we're gonna be doing that." But then, yeah, on the other side, we do Mind Jam, obviously, we don't force anybody. We're not teachers, but we can look into digital skills as well. So if they've got an interest in game design or art, animation, music, we can look into things like that as well with them. So
Well, I read the notes ahead of Jay's session and it said, we're going to look into blacksmithing for him. I was like, I
amazing.
mean, they are
Blacksmithing.
nothing if not flexible, your mentors.
Yeah.
He's got an interest in it. It was like, all right, we'll have a look at that then. It's like wicked. It's definitely child led, that's for sure.
It's not all rubbish.
Well, that seems like a reasonable time to bring us to the more positive side of things. And I think gaming is positive. Obviously, it's difficult sometimes managing the dysregulation caused by losing
Hmm.
and bending the rules to kind of to bring things to a more even keel, I guess. But there are also huge positives, not just kind of from the relationship that you can build through gaming, but just all kinds of games in everyday life. For Otto, as I kind of touched on earlier, it's an incredibly important social tool for him
Yeah.
because he struggles with conversation. He doesn't find it comfortable, so he likes to play games as a way of connecting. So if there's any spare moment in a day, we're like 2 minutes until we've got to get out of the house. Like, do you want to play a game?
Yeah.
We don't have time. As soon as we get out the door, all right, can we play a game now? And it's really important because it's him telling me he wants that connection,
Yeah.
but he doesn't want to start a conversation. He just wants to be kind of, he just wants us to interact together.
Yeah.
And that's really important to him.
Yeah, no, I think that's so key. That's it. We should never stop gaming in whatever way. There's this thing of we've got to grow up and stop gaming. No, no, gaming should be all the way through, and we do game. Even adults who think they don't game, even getting likes on your Facebook post or anything like that, is still gamified. Everything's gamified. And yeah, I've had people and they say I'm not a gamer. I'm not a gamer, and then they're playing Candy Crush on the mobile and the level 3652 or something on it. It's like you're a gamer.
Yeah.
That game would have been huge when we were kids. That game would have been the game you played. That would have been a Tetris. Just the fact you're playing on your iPad or your phone doesn't mean that you're not a gamer.
Yeah.
But it is. It's just about having fun. Human nature. We're
You
playful,
just
aren't
helped me
we?
realize how much I gamify our life,
Yeah,
like for the kids, just to get us to get shit done.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it's like, and I know that like this is a tactic that you use for toddlers, is like who can pick up the most amount of bits of shit from the floor,
yeah,
right? That to tidy a room. But I'm constantly doing stuff like that with my kids to just try and remove demands because you're not
yeah,
saying pick that up. It's kind of low demand parenting,
yeah,
whilst you're saying keeping that lightness and that sense of humor about things and tapping into that love of games. And
yeah.
I've only just realized since you said that how much that just underpins so much of our life.
Yeah, I think it is. It's like we all want to have fun, which is what comes back to the family gaming night. That's one thing, isn't it? Fun with the family, and that's why it's so
Yeah.
heartbreaking when it ends up in tears or tantrums. But that's it. Yeah, we've been the same. Everything is a game. Who can? Okay, how many bits of rubbish, like say shit, can you pick up in 10 seconds? Go. How many can you carry? But you can't carry all them, can you?
Yeah, but then I do set off things in motion with Otto because Otto likes repetitive stuff a lot. I
Yeah.
once said, "Can you throw that bit of rubbish in the bin over there?"
Oh, yeah.
And now
That's it. Yeah.
every single time. He'll be standing next to the bin and he'll take the rubbish and stand at the other end of the room and like hurl a bit of banana skin across the room, and he'll miss
Yeah.
every time. And I know that he just wants the game, and I can't. He's trying to tidy up, and that I don't want to discourage that, but
Yeah. So
on the other hand, there is banana smears across the whole
just
kitchen.
keep all fun, don't you?
Yeah, have fun. It's important because it's
Exactly.
yeah, it's keep things light-hearted.
Yeah.
And another huge positive of games, which we touched on earlier, and I kind of wanted to draw attention to a bit, is Dungeons and Dragons,
Mm,
because that is for some reason incredibly appealing to neurodivergent kids.
yeah,
Certainly to mine.
definitely.
I presume that the listeners are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, but if you're not, it's essentially like this kind of imaginative, fantasy-based narrative realm, isn't it? Basically, a dungeon
Yeah.
master will kind of set the scene and give you all characters and different abilities, and then just do a big story.
Yeah.
And it's so imaginative and creative, and it's collaborative. That's the important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's it goes back to I don't know if you like made up stories when your kids were really young. You just make up silly stories, but it's kind of like it's a more grown up version of that. But I think especially neurodivergent people love it because it is trying out different personas. They can be different characters. They can be as they can be this brash person who is, quite aggressive to the monsters around, or it could be,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sneaky spy or a funny person. It's testing out, different social things. It is the amount of amazing benefits that a game like that has is huge.
And it encourages communication as
Yeah,
well, which very often they're not as comfortable doing just on a one-to-one basis. If it's collaborative and it's they're trying to problem solve, how to
yeah,
smash a dragon,
yeah.
then they're all having some input.
Yeah, it's a distraction from, it's not about boring stuff as well. It's always about super interesting things. So it's like they're gonna want to get involved. As I say, my daughter, she's situationally mute. She won't talk to strangers. She, can't
Hmm.
buy anything from a shop or anything like that. But she started D&D sessions and absolutely loves it. And
Oh wow.
she created her own cat. She's a cat person thing, but she's got all these, quite close friends
That's
from it.
it. She's got this whole character that she's built up over,
Yeah,
over time.
yeah, basically, and that's her, and she's really happy because the other people in the game are saying, "Oh, I really love your character. I really love you," but her as a character, but she's getting that validation of this wonderful character she's created. She's drawn her now, of course, and all sorts of
Yeah,
things. And
great.
it's again, it's that false stigma on neurodivergent people is that they are not creative and they like things more logical and things. Yet that real playful storytelling that can be there, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
quite a lot of young people who like to be, and I can imagine your Jay would be the same, would like to be the dungeon master, the one in control,
yes.
the one setting the scene, and that fits the game. And again, it's a collaboration that you can actually do where they'll be like, "Ha ha ha, there you go, yeah, I'm gonna do
And you
this."
want someone that actually thrives on that as well. It's
Yeah,
not, it's not a
yeah,
problem.
yeah. So yeah, it's brilliant,
So
and
it's
it's
got so many helpful tools, I think, for helping neurodivergents to
yeah.
thrive in many ways.
And in Mind Jam, we have our own D&D groups in there too.
Do you really?
You didn't
I'm
even know that, did
definitely
you? It's called
no, not yet.
yeah,
He's not started yet.
we did a soft launch back in December. It's called Mind Jam Adventures, and no, sorry, Adventures Guild we call it. And yeah, it's great. We've got two mentors who are dungeon masters, but we either do one shots where someone who's never tried it before can do it for one night, one hour or an hour and a half, or we then have campaigns that run for 10 weeks. Which again, it's that as we know, a lot of our young people are isolated and struggle to make friends, and it's just getting that where they meet up every week, but there could be that persona and, be that different person, but
Oh,
work
it sounds
together.
amazing.
Yeah, it's dead exciting to how the first
Yeah,
sessions have gone is great. So that will be launching more and more. We'll be expanding that with more wonderful dungeon masters.
yeah,
So
wonderful.
exciting.
That sounds great.
Neurodiversity champions.
Underscoring the positives, I wanted to look at some neurodiversity champions. These are kind of people or organizations that are doing great things to kind of further neurodiversity awareness or kind of champion neurodiversity. You
Yeah.
got anyone that you wanted to give a
Well,
shout out to?
Well, mine's a little bit different. I wanted to make people aware of a initiative by BAFTA called Young Game Designers. Just
Great.
because I was lucky enough to be nominated as Mentor of the Year a few years ago, which is obviously wonderful. But I got to go to the actual ceremony, and I would say about 90% of the kids there were neurodivergent. Um,
Nice.
got honestly, but it is so lovely and nurturing, the whole ceremony. I mean, not the ceremony, but also the introduction into the wonders of game design. Um,
Yeah.
and it is they do lots of initiatives over the year, so keep an eye on their website. I had it written down somewhere. I've got it. Maybe we can post on your
You
thing
send it
after.
me a link and I'll put it
Yeah,
in the show notes.
yeah. So there's loads of resources, things like that. But basically, they run a competition. It is a competition, and it runs every year. But there's two sides to it. There's game making, so someone who actually can make a game, in any platform, from Unity, which is
Hmm.
like the industry standard, to little Scratch, and anywhere in between. But that can be quite alienating for ones who've never looked into that or never wanted to look into coding or things like that. But you can also enter a game concept, which is basically just having an idea and doing sketches or doing pictures,
Okay.
making music. You can just send in all your wonderful bits and some wonderful, ideas. But also, it's just really great as a thing to do as a family or with friends, to actually sit down and go, if you made a game, what would it be like? And you can actually discuss that, and it brings up that thinking, that connection there. But then it shows that, because the gaming industry, a lot of people think it's coders, and that it's
Yeah.
not. There's so many different roles in there, and the industry is huge. It's way bigger than music. It's way bigger than TV now. It is the biggest thing. It is, so for our kids that really like video games, it is a really genuinely good thing to be starting to think about. Maybe they want a career in that, or maybe want to do something in that, because there's things from, you need games testers. How many of our kids look for the problems and things, and look to
Oh
try to
God, yeah.
break the game, so the game testers, is amazing. We have Rockstar Studios in Lincoln, which is, who make GTA, Red Dead
Yeah, yeah,
Redemption.
yeah, yeah.
That's I know quite a few who've worked as game testers, and say, for the right person, it's great. Like, one of their jobs was to just go around the whole map, getting on and off a horse to check whether it glitched properly or not. But can you imagine, for some of our young
Let's
people,
just
that,
set them off. I'm on it. That's
yeah,
it.
my son would love it, mapping it out. Yeah, it's perfect, but then there's music, there's production, there's story writing, there's characters, there's art, there's animation. Um,
Yeah, which is
um,
wonderful to see that, because obviously we all sort of wonder about what careers our neurodivergent kids might be able to
yeah,
thrive in. So this is a huge industry. This is something that I was talking to Jess Meredith when we have differing minds,
yeah,
who aims to kind of champion the positives of neurodivergence in the workplace, and
yeah,
yeah, to just bringing that to people's attention and
yeah.
giving people a little
What
bit more of an insight in what they could achieve.
But what's great as well is that the industry is really getting accessible and making those reasonable
Okay.
adjustments. And I was talking with a great studio called Media Molecule, who made Little Big Planet, and they were
Hmm.
part of Sony basically. But they had this artist, a wonderful artist who does a lot of their work, but they've never met her. She's situation mute. They send her the brief by email. She sends her wonderful
Oh,
art in. They pay her.
oh wow.
That's it. And it's like, so
Yeah.
you can fit.
No job interview.
Oh, I know, but if you're lucky enough, and brave enough to get to the studio's incredible. It's so fun. It's
Yeah.
playful. It's got, artwork everywhere. It's got wonderful dynamic rooms. It's not, not your stuffy workplace. People work different hours, whatever fits their lifestyle. It is, the better companies are changing. But what is, yeah, what, because I do quite a lot of work with BAFTA for young game designers now, and their focus really is on accessibility, inclusion, and that's where they're looking at
Amazing.
next. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful initiative, but that a lot of people don't actually know about. A lot of the winners I've seen, or the people that have got to finals, and they pick a lot of finals. It's not just like, oh, it's really tricky. It is about, I think, 50 or 60 finalists, and they all get to go
Okay.
to BAFTA in Piccadilly, for the ceremony, but also they get support throughout the year of helping them get to game design, lots, seminars, all sorts of things that can help, and
Oh,
talks to the
amazing.
parents about where to go next. And it's funny talking with the parents, because a lot of them, you know, the the winner, he made this amazing game, and the parents were like, "We didn't even know he was making that. We didn't know he could do this." And then he just entered it, and next thing he said, "Oh, by the way, I've won this." They're like,
That's
"What?"
amazing.
It's yeah.
That's so good. Well,
Um,
yeah. So I'll put the link in the show notes for that because
yeah,
that's exactly what
yeah,
neurodiversity champions is all about. They're
yeah.
championing neurodiversity. So
Exactly. It's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
wonderful. So my neurodiversity champion. Well, I would give a shout out to the Dice Saloon in Brighton, who I mentioned because it is
That
wonderful,
does
and
sound brilliant. Yeah.
they have a lot of Dungeons and Dragons stuff going on there as well. It's just a place that is really accepting and really kind of tolerant of neurodivergency, and I think it's a haven for neurodivergence. I don't think there's no judgment there, and everyone's kind of a little bit alternative anyway, so that's really nice. And it's a place where we could just go and be ourselves and let our kids be themselves and not feel judged, and that's really lovely. So I would shout out to the Dice Saloon in Brighton because that's wonderful.
It's amazing.
The other neurodiversity champion I wanted to mention was Kelly Bright, who is an actress on who's best known as Linda Carter in EastEnders. But she has recently started speaking out about having autistic child, and has recently done a short film for the One Show. And it's like 5 minutes, and it's basically about how hard it is to get any HCP.
Mm.
And what it's doing is bringing that awareness to a really quite a broad audience.
Yeah,
Like the One Show is that, it's getting into people's tea times,
yeah.
so she talks very openly about how difficult it is to get an EHCP and the amount of paperwork. She was like, well, my final EHCP email, I sent 21 attachments, and I was just like, everyone who's been there is like, yep, I
Yeah,
fucking hear you, sister.
yeah.
We've all been there. And like I say, just talking to the Association of School and College Leaders, who were kind of looking at the positive sides. Now, to be fair, the package did sort of end with like, I've got hope for the future, when we all know we don't have hope for the future. It's
No,
fucked.
they're cutting it down,
And
aren't
I'm
they?
fairly
Yeah.
sure that Kelly Bright knows it fucked, but she also obviously can't sign off by going, and this is just one tiny fraction of the myriad shit shows that people have to experience across the land. You
No,
can't say that. And now over to Helen. Are you not while
we're all
people
depressed
how
now. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you've got to kind of tie it up in a bow, and I realized that she did that. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Kelly Bright for using her celebrity status to kind of bring it into other people's
Oh,
attention, to let
exactly.
people know that what's going on.
That is huge because there isn't that awareness there. The amount of people who who've no idea how you would even start with EHCP. If you don't have a lovely school that supports you through that,
Yeah, yeah.
you got no chance, have you? It's like we did.
Or how much fucking work it is.
Yeah, we didn't manage for our children. We didn't get offered any help, any support or anything.
No, no.
It was like they're autistic. See ya.
Well, I'm stumped. It's over to you.
Tiny epic wins.
Okay, time for the tiny epic wins section. Now, these are the things that in everyday neurotypical life would be no big shakes, but obviously in our neuroshambolic lifestyles is a major win. So, have you got any tiny epic wins for us, Dan?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, it ties in with what I was saying about the collaborative gaming, but there's in last year, no, the year before, a wonderful
Hmm.
game came out called It Takes Two, and it's like a Pixar
Hmm.
Pixar movie, but you have to play it two-player. Um,
Okay.
and my son and daughter don't have a lot to do with each other most of the time, but they both played this game from start to finish. It's a long game, and the shared experience they had, and I would just sat and watched. Um, and it was suddenly they had again. We were talking about the connection. It was just another one that brought those two closer, and it was just
Okay.
absolutely wonderful to see. Even just like a Pixar movie, it's got its cringy moments as well. So even when they're laughing because the the couple's kissing or whatever, and they're laughing at each other, cringing at it, or whatever. It was just like, oh my god! Again, it was just that
Oh,
power
that's
power of
lovely.
gaming that brought them together. So yeah, that was a. I
Playing a
was like,
game without fighting,
oh
basically.
my god, yeah. Basically, yeah, and it's teamwork, collaboration, and laughing.
Yeah,
And
that is epic.
yeah,
So I've got a good tiny epic win, which kind of ties in with this with the gaming thing. And you were kind of mentioning earlier about where the way that people connect with Mind Jam is that they're concentrating on one thing, and then it sort of frees them up to talk about other stuff.
yeah,
Um, Otto has got to do some national times tables tests coming up.
yeah,
And he is understandably incredibly anxious about that. He's being tested on something. Now, his timetables, he's pretty good. He's got quite a good memory for that kind of thing. But if you put him under the spotlight and ask him them, he will just like panic. And we were told that we need to practice their times tables. So I kind of mentioned to Otto that we needed to do this. And he was like, no, no. I was like, okay, well, there's a game you can do where maybe we can do this game. And he was like, no, I don't want to do that either. Oh, no, no, just ask me the questions. I was like, I've got an idea, right? He loves playing table tennis.
right,
So I was like, let's play table tennis. And as we're playing table tennis, I'm just going to fire some questions at you. He was like, "Oh, all right." And
Oh,
so we played table tennis, right? And I just asked him times tables questions, and he was just firing them off, just
amazing.
getting them
Yeah.
without any of the anxiety. And I'm sure that it's to do with his ADHD brain needing to be occupied by something
Yeah.
whilst doing something else.
Uh,
It just gives him too many things to not to worry,
yeah.
but not enough to worry too much. If you see
Yeah.
what I mean, to
Yeah.
be overwhelmed. It was really interesting how that kind of just sort of unlocked something in him. And I went into his school the following week because I had to do an EHCP review with him, for him, and they mentioned these tests. I was like, can you try this thing? Can you try and just take him somewhere, give him a ball, don't sit him in a room and ask him the questions because he's not going to survive.
Yeah.
He's not going to thrive in that situation. Can you give him a ball, a tennis ball or something, and just shout the questions over at him and just record his answers? And they're going to give that a go. So I'm hoping,
Brilliant.
like, I hope the school are going to do that because I think it's that way of unlocking that what I know he can do, but it's removing one of the barriers in his way.
What the flip?
Okay, so what the flip moments now? We'll get into the final bit of the podcast, where we talk about moments that our neurodivergent kids will throw a complete curveball at us, and we won't really know how to respond. Happens to me regularly. I don't know if you've got any what the flip moments for us, Dan.
Can I have a think of that? And we can back in.
If you don't have any, I've got plenty. It's always the way with me. I've got
Yeah.
a litany of them. This week's slightly different because I've got one from each of my kids. So Otto's what the flip moment was when the other night he climbed into bed with me in the middle of the night, as he does. He climbed into bed and I was sort of half asleep, and he went, "Daddy, there's some poo or sick outside your door." And I went, "How do you know?" And he went, "I just stepped in it." It's like, get out of my bed then. What are you doing?
Oh, amazing.
Oh my god, he hadn't thought to. He was right. The cat had
Nice.
puked outside my door, and it was now in my bed. Ah, fun times.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least he told you eventually.
Yeah, I know. Bless him. Um, another what the flip moment. This one from India, where I overheard India talking to Tam, and India went, "When Daddy dies, we're going to eat his ribs and dance on his soul." And Tam went, "Why?" And India went, "It's just been on my mind for a while." It's like I'm like round the corner just going, I don't know where that's come from, but I've got to write it down. I mean, that's,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
genius.
it's just also really dark.
It's
Um, it's just so she was just the way she said it was so adorable. It's
yeah.
just been on my mind,
Just
just
been on
eating
my just
Daddy's
been
ribs
thinking
and
about
dancing on his soul. Why not?
it.
Um, and then the final one is from Jay, where we have a children's parade in Brighton every year, where the school get children who agree that they want to go on this massive parade and cram in and like do, and the parents, like, it's a massive thing for all the schools, and the parents are really into it and they want to get involved, and we're just like, fuck no. Like, we want nothing to do with that. You know, we, from early on it was like, oh, maybe my kid will want to get involved, and there's like, no, none of them are, no, it's not for our kids. Fine. But we were trying to get across Brighton to go and visit, I think my friend Phil actually, to get some Zelda advice or something, and we're in the car and Jay was like, "Why is it taking so long?" And I went, "Oh, it's the children's parade." I was like, "Do you fancy getting involved in the children's parade, Jay?" Knowing obviously that he wouldn't. And he went, "I hate children and I don't like parades. So what's to get excited about?" Fair. I hate children. I mean, he is a
He's
child.
trying no, no, he's not. He's not.
He's right. He hates. No, it's
I
true.
hate
That
it.
is a PDA thing, isn't it? That's a
Yeah,
genuine PDA question. I'm
that's
fascinated by
it.
that.
Oh, well, yeah,
Do you see yourself as a child?
yeah.
Did you know that was one of the criteria,
No?
for PDA kind of diagnosis? Is like, does your child see themselves as a child? Do they realize that they're a child? It's like,
Oh,
I never thought about it. It's like, no, he doesn't. He
no,
doesn't see himself
no.
as a child. He
That
sees himself as a,
makes that makes so much sense for all the ones we work with, all the, my son, yeah,
yeah.
they're not,
It's no.
yeah,
They
it
have to be
my son's the
equals, at
same.
least
It's like
equals.
there's kids there. Oh, there's kids there. I don't want to go there. Like you're a kid. No, yeah, I've got what the flip moment actually. Okay, okay.
Okay, go on then.
My son, I dropped him. I was bear in mind he's 14 now, but he loves to go to Jump Inc. We have here, which is a trampoline park, but it's
Yeah.
expanded a bit now. And I turned up to pick him up because he's with his mate, and there's a indoor little football pitch as well.
Hmm.
And most of the kids there must have been about 6 or 7, but he's playing the most powerful football of his life, whacking the ball as hard as he can at the goal. This poor little girl's like diving out the way, and then he's like sliding, tackling. I'm like, Fred, what are you doing? And he's just like, yeah, well, I scored about 15 goals, and I was so good. It's like, mate.
Fuck. He's like doing the loser dance in front of him. It's like, come on, man. Still, at least he felt good about it.
Yeah, exactly. He scored a lot of goals. He's played well. Played well.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the podcast. So, firstly, just a massive thank you, Dan. Thank you for your time and for everything you're doing with Mind Jam. I'm genuinely excited about the new Mind Jam journey that Jasper's about to embark on, and
Oh no, it's been a
potentially
pleasure.
the
No,
Adventure Guild as well.
oh, I know. That's it. Yeah, we're also starting up group sessions too, as well. That's going to be happening. So gaming groups as well. So again, just to use that way for them to connect with others. So they have their
Yeah,
mentor, and then they can also have the group. So, but no,
excellent.
thank you for having us on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's just good fun to chat about
Yeah, it
things.
is, isn't it? It's
It's
quite
nice.
nice about the shit we have to go through. So, no, thank you for joining us. I'll also say thank you to the listeners. Thank you so much for continuing to listen and for spreading the word. Please continue to do that. And also shout out for the socials. So we are on Instagram and we are on, I'm going to say Reddit, but I did say in the last episode that if no one has signed up to Reddit, I'm binning it. So this is live because I haven't checked it since because I don't have
Dun,
high
dun,
hopes.
dun.
This is live. Am I going to bin Reddit? Hang on a second. Hang on. I've got no.
I'm
No
going.
one's
Hang on.
joined it.
I'm going to quickly join while you're looking now. I can't got time.
No,
I
don't
can't
you
get there
dare.
quickly.
No, it's too much admin. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it is now that I will announce the death of Reddit.
Sad days. Sad days.
So
Are you gonna? Are you
it's
gonna?
not.
Are
It's
you
not
gonna
sad.
close your MySpace as well? Or is that going down?
No, MySpace is going strong. Um, so we are on Instagram and Threads and of course Facebook, and all that remains for me to say is have a nice life.